Today on Gamer's Couch,
Mice and Mystics.
hello!
Hello!
Welcome and happy Sunday! This is our weekly board game vlog. If you're new to the channel and don't know us, this is Daniel, my husband, and I'm Sarah, the artist behind this channel and Pinselgeschichten. And we are talking board games every Sunday because we can, and that is pretty much our time together that we have on the calendar every Sunday. So today, as we already said in the opener, we're having Mice and Mystics on the couch, and we talk about rules and gameplay first and then go into what we liked or maybe did not like about the game, and finishing the video with funny stories and experiences that we had while playing the game. Now here's a general disclaimer for this video. We have the German version of the game and we don't know all the names of the characters in the English version. So whenever we name a character, we will take the German name, which will be the whole video, the German lesson of the day for you. And
That means I can make up names for...
No. I will correct you if you're...
This is Ubongo Mbumba.
Oh, sounds so German. No? No, you have to use the real names. There might be German listeners or viewers here too. They have to be able, whatever, talk about the rules and the gameplay, and I sip coffee meanwhile.
So, following up on our video about the Imperial Assault, which is, I think, more targeted at the 12-year-old, Mice and Mystics is a perfect, also dungeon crawler, but this time a purely cooperative dungeon crawler that is more suited for the 8-year-old. Whether that 8-year-old may be captive as a shell of your beloved ones, or an actual 8-year-old, or a 6-year-old who thinks he's an 8-year-old. Doesn't matter, but that is kind of the person who should feel attracted to this. It's a very whimsical game in a fantasy setting about, well, mice and mystics. I'm trying really hard not to spoil anything about the story because I can already tell you that is the main draw of the game. Mice and Mystics is about a kingdom, a prince who gets, he and his fellows get turned into mice to fight against an evil sorceress that is also a spider. So if you're not that high on spiders, here's your chance to fight back and crush them with your little mice. As I said, it's a dungeon crawler, so if you're familiar with games like these, Imperial Assault is a bit different in that regard because you have someone who's playing the bad side. This being a pure cooperative game, you will only be playing against the game by having your little characters. And again, disclaimer, unfortunately, they don't look like these. These are already painted by me, so they're a little bit more colorful. But again,
this is how they come.
As said with other games, if you see that I'm holding up a painted miniature, that's usually a good indicator that those miniatures are of a really high quality and are easy to paint. But let's get on. So the game comes with a fairly big rule book, which I'd recommend reading fully from front to back before even starting the game. The reason for that is while the game happens, you'll be using this campaign book, and the campaign book will first off start off with a story chapter that is pretty long. So if you're expecting to get off easy with that, with not a lot of reading, it might be difficult. I know, at least for the English version, I think there's some podcasters who made a job out of actually having those read to you, like a good night bedtime story. But obviously, this is way more engaging if you decide to have one read this. And if you're playing with your kids, well, that's the price you pay for being a parent, I guess. Now, once you're playing the chapter, it actually tells you what the goal is. It will show you how to set up, and I will take a look at the board tiles soon, what happens on each specific tile. And the reason I said it's good to read the rules beforehand is each of these chapters usually introduce specific chapter rules that augment the base rules of the game or add on to that. And it might be a little bit slow if you start reading up on a lot of stuff, or if you're just going at it and try to march through the first chapters. Maybe not that bad with the first 1 or 2 chapters, but later on the things start layering upon layering on the rules. And it's really a good idea to know upfront what you're doing. So, as I said, and pardon me for reaching around here, you will be playing a dungeon crawler. And what is a dungeon crawler without a dungeon? So the game comes with a bunch of tiles that have exits and entrances, so you can put them together and have them form big boards. Usually a chapter uses 3 to 4 of these big ones to form the game board, and as you can already see, those have 2 sides. But other than, well, most other games, these 2 sides actually have gameplay meaning in terms of that they're above ground and underground. So let's say you are this
Queen's Chamber.
The Queen's Chamber. There is, for example, down here a loose stone plate through that you can traverse down to the forge, and do stuff there. So you can, while traveling across these boards, sometimes you have to move up or down to a different level to be able to proceed. And the game tries to help you with that by having orientation arrows on here, so all the tiles should kind of face in the same direction. And as you can see here, the crossing for the tiles come in different colors, where the bluish, whitish, grayish one is the underground one, and the yellow-orange one is the above-ground one. So you always know, are these 2 on the same level? And should you explore from one tile to another that is not facing the right thing, you just turn it over and then proceed from there. And if you haven't already figured that out, this looks pretty gorgeous, very, I'd say, children's comic book art stylish, or a storybook art style. Not giving away too much in terms of rating here already, but I think this is one of the bigger components. In actual gameplay, we'll get to a typical turn soon enough. First off, I'd like you to introduce how of the kind of this tracking board that is, well, kind of tells you what will happen in a turn. It's big. What you'll have here are the pages of the chapters, and each campaign mission will tell you where to place a specific marker on here that tells you when the chapter ends. And yes, this is kind of alluding to that this is a storybook that you're playing through. So it will refer to pages, it will refer to chapters, and use that wording throughout the entire game, almost as if you would be playing through a storybook. And this way, the way this works is, this is the timer that will make your game not last forever. You will have a little sand clock that advances along this track until it hits the story end marker or chapter end marker. And if you hit the chapter end marker before hitting all your objectives that you want to do in a chapter, you lost the game and might have to restart the chapter. Other things that will be tracked on here are the initiative. So each character that will be on the board gets a little initiative card on here. One for your mice as well as for the enemies. These will get shuffled and put at random on this board. Position of these cards may change due to game effects, but typically they stay the same for each room you're in. So for each of these tiles you have an order of initiative for all your characters, and if you played stuff like D&D, you immediately say, yeah, that sounds quite familiar. Till you go through these turns and try to beat up the bad guys or do additional things that the chapter will tell you. The third thing on here is this clock wheel up here. that will get little cheese parts because it's mice and mystics. So this is another way to track how hard the game will be over time, in addition to the page tracking. Um, Due to various effects, this thing will fill up with cheese, and once it's filled up completely, it will surge into another group of enemies entering the room, and that may happen once per every room. So it kind of wants to keep you walking through the game at a quicker pace and not linger too long in each individual room and waste your time with searching for stuff, creating a sense of urgency, immediate urgency. Because while this creates urgency as well, it's a bit more abstract because you kind of have, yeah, we still have 5 pages to go, which doesn't tell you a lot, but these will feel quite immediate in terms of motivation to move forward. And then there's more fields here, which give you space to rest different cards for items, if you're searching for stuff. There's the encounter deck that comes here that actually determines what your enemies in a given room are. And the space in the middle is for group inventory items, which we'll shortly talk about. So at the beginning of the game, you pick your characters depending on how many players you are, but I almost suggest going in with the complement of full 4 mice doing that. And each character has a little character sheet that has some background story to that character. It's totally worthwhile reading out that aloud to get to know your characters. This is not a role-playing game in terms of that you kind of pretend to be that character. It is literally more like a story, so you're reading about the adventures of those characters and see them fold out. Characters have a couple of stats that are up here. Attack stat, defense, knowledge, and speed. Obviously, different characters come with different stats. Then each character has a couple of base skills or special skills, like Lily, for example, is quite quick on her feet and able to ignore mouse traps on the board, which is a feature that prevents you from moving. Surprise. And she also gets cheese for exploring new rooms. So cheese has multiple functions in this game. For one, there's the timing wheel where you put the cheese on, but cheese is also a reward mechanic for all those mice here. So you can spend cheese to perform special feats, or you can spend a lot of cheese to level up your characters, which will progress throughout the campaign and make for a, well, consistent, bound together or tied together story where, especially if you're playing with kids, they feel there's something going on for each weekend, and you would play this across a couple of months, for example. Also, the sheet notes the amount of hit points the character has. That's typically 3 or 4. And starting equipment, in this case, her bow and equipment comes in form of these little cards. They have the S at the back end, and that big board I showed you also has a field for those. So these are the item cards or equipment cards that you can search for. Obviously, starting equipment, you start out with that stuff, and typically always have that available. Equipment also has different effects written down here. It notes where the equipment goes. In this case, this is a two-handed weapon, and obviously a character or a mouse can only carry weapons in that many hands. Well, you know, mice. And there's actually two different kinds of weapons. If it has a sword, then it is a close combat weapon. If it has a bow icon, it is a ranged weapon, which is important in terms of how attacks resolve. This is in the entire game quite easy. So if you want to do a close combat attack, you have to stand on the same field. And while there's not a grid on this game, you can see it is very grid-like by having features on the board, like these bigger stone plates, so that counts as a field to move across. And if you want to perform a close combat attack, you do that on the same field or to an adjacent field. And by the way, adjacent, there's a very simple way to determine that. You just take your mini and see if your base is enough to cover multiple, fields, and if they do, they're, well, adjacent. Obviously, there's also obstacles on here, which are either specifically marked with lines. In this case, there's a red line, which probably is hard to determine around the bed. So that's spaces you can't go across or have problems attacking across, specifically if you're doing close combat attacks. However, for ranged attacks, it's enough to have line of sight, and as long as there's no wall blocking your line of sight or some features, as they're called on the board, like sometimes there's a helmet on here or stuff like that, then you can freely attack. So what does a turn look like? Well, once your initiative card has its turn on the initiative track, you will first of all roll one of these dice. They all have different icons, or 3 different types of information on these. First one, and that's for the first die roll important, is there's a small number up here. This says 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 are the only numbers on here, and once you roll that at the first start of the turn, this gives you information how many fields you may move. Spaces you may move are determined by the number plus your speed value on the character. So if you roll a 3 with Lily, Lily is allowed to move 5 spaces. And on your turn, you are allowed to do a basic action and a movement action. And basic actions can be a whole bunch of stuff. There's also free actions, and as the name implies, they're free, so you're not necessarily limited in doing so. Basic actions are you can move again. So in that case, with the example with Lily, she could move actually 10 spaces, but not attack. Attacking is a basic action you can do. Searching is a basic action, so trying to figure out if there's stuff in the room that you can grab and use. You can discover, which is going into the next room, which will actually bring all the mice in your current room with you to the next room. So there's never stuff usually happening in multiple rooms at the same time. You will move as a group and then you'll proceed forward to the next room, and which makes the gameplay flow very focused because you only have to deal with one room at a time and don't have to track about stuff in different rooms. The other basic action, attacking, is where the big icons on this comes into play. As you can see, there's a little red sword on here, or a little green bow, or even a sword with a shield. These are your attack values, and let's say Lily has an attack value of 2. So she gets to roll 2 dice, but since she's using a bow, she has to roll bow icons to count as an attack. So what will happen is she rolls 2 dice, and, well, no criticism here, but it's Lily. Probably she won't hit, because bows are less often on these dice than swords are, which may be frustrating at times. But that's the price for having a ranged attack. Your chances for hitting are lower. Then the enemy checks what his defense dice are, and enemies don't really have the big cards, they only have the small initiative cards, but as you can see, the initiative cards, even for the heroes, list all the stats there that are on there, plus special rules if applicable. So let's say Lily wants to hit one of those red warriors, and red warriors defend with 2 dice. So the red warrior will also roll, or a player will roll 2 dice for the red warrior, and for each shield icon that is rolled, and ignore the sword that's on there, that means the attack is blocked. I think there's 2 shield icons on this die, there's 2 bow icons on this die, and 3 sword icons. So as you can see, your chances to roll a close combat melee attack are way higher than rolling a ranged attack, but defending against attacks is always two sides of the die. The last phase is a cheese icon, and well, you get cheese whenever you roll cheese, either while attacking or defending. But depending on who rolled the die, the cheese goes to different locations. If you, as a player, rolling your attack or defense for your mouse, you get the cheese, and that is the main way how you acquire cheese icons or cheese tokens that you may spend then later on. If the enemy rolls cheese, it goes onto the cheese wheel over here, and that's how kind of the game starts then accelerating. So if you have a player who's really good at rolling cheese, maybe don't let them roll for the enemies. Let them roll only for other people, for other stuff. The third information piece on here is a little bit hard to spot, but it's a little star that is present on 3 of the 6 sides, and that stars usually involve some specific special action. The most basic action involves is searching. So if you search, you roll 1 die, and if you roll a little star, an asterisk, then your search is successful. In most cases, it's all about finding out if something is successful. Obviously, you've got a 50-50 chance on rolling these, and sometimes things will say, well, to successfully climb out of the water, you roll 1 die for yourself, plus 1 for each mouse that is able to help you out of the water, and once you roll at least 1 star, you're out of the water. That would be an example how these are used in gameplay terms. At this point, probably most of the game revolves around fighting enemies, so let's take a look at a couple of them. I already told you about the red warriors, that are these little fellows. I hope you can see them.
If you hold them in front of your shirt, the contrast is highest.
I could hold them in front of the duck, but yeah. So you'll be fighting rats. You'll be fighting little cockroaches. You'll be fighting caterpillars. And finally, you will also be fighting spiders. In this game, in this way, normal spiders as well as sorceress types of spiders. There's, from a gameplay perspective, then I told you already, you can search for stuff, so there's also item cards in here, and they're pretty much the same as the starting cards in terms of what's on them. You'll have the icon, you'll have text. There's some differences in terms of what kind of that is. So there's equipment stuff like this breastplate. This actually has a couple of prerequisites. So this says it's for a warrior, a healer, or is it mechanic?
Yeah.
Yeah, a tinkerer, I think, is the thing. So some of these items may only be equipped by a mouse of that specific class. If you take a look at Lily, Lily is Schützen. That's a. I don't want to say aimbot.
What don't you want to say? Aimbot?
So Lily is like a shooter, a sharpshooter in that regard. So she actually wouldn't be able to wear this, but other characters are. And the symbols up here show you what the card gives you. In this case, it allows you to roll an additional defense die because, well, it's a breastplate. Then there's one-time use items like this rune here, but sometimes you'll draw a card that is negative, and in this case this says misfortune, and you have to play this card at once. You can't prevent it unless you may have an item that prevents it, and this says you lose all your cheese, which is a pretty cheesy move in my book. You'll have weapons. Sometimes you come across spells. Spells, for example, usually use the how wise you are, your sage value, that little writing feather thing. and you'll have to match that high value to actually be able to use the spell. Obviously, there's the classes are all present, so Lily is kind of the sharpshooter range character. You'll have Tilda, the priest character, who's also a healer. Um, in Germany, he's called Finger. I think in English he's called Filch, who's the thief, who's really good at searching stuff. He's also a bit of a scoundrel, so if you're looking for a Han Solo impression, there's your best chance to get it. Then there's he's called in German. He's called Rex. So if I call it correctly, he's called Nez in the English version. But he's a smith, a close combat brawler with a big hammer.
But not very smart.
Yeah, well,
he couldn't.
Lovable.
Yeah.
Then there's Maginus, who is the sorcerer of the thing. And last but not least, Prince Colin, who is kind of the hero of the entire outfit, who tries to regain his castle from the evil sorceress. And all these mice used to be real people, well, not real people, but humans in the story that get turned into mice. So that kind of is the outset of the story. As I said, not wanting to spoil too much, but that's what the story is all about. And I think the only stuff left to talk about is, well, how do you determine what enemies are you fighting against? If the storybook doesn't say differently, you would draw one of these encounter cards, and the encounter cards show you, depending on which page you're on, what enemies you're fighting. And in this case, says page 1, fight 2 rats and 3 cockroaches. But if you're already on page 5, it's 4 rats. If you're on page 6, it's 2 rats and 2 elite rats. And it also shows you the reinforcement type of enemy. Reinforcements happen, or surges as they're also called, when the cheese wheel is full. So if you're in a room and the surge has not happened yet, what happens then is you remove all the cheese from the cheese wheel, put the enemy into play that's set here under reinforcement, then put that card away, because a search can only happen once per room. If another search should happen in the same room, all you do is advance the page marker to get the game to end more closely. Actually, you have to move the page marker the first time the search happens as well. So this is kind of like, it's punishing enough, so if it should happen the second time that a search happens in a specific room, you don't get punished even more so by introducing more and more enemies. This is especially important because to be able to move to another room, you usually have to defeat all enemies in a room to be able to do so. And then there's in the item deck, there's some equipment that helps you deal with specific board stuff. For example, there's what's it called? There's costumes here that let you avoid specific types of enemies because you're kind of dressing up as them. You may find a hook with some string attached to it, which you can use to traverse certain fields on the board. So this actually becomes a board feature. So you can use this, for example, as it's the red line on the bed, and you could get on the bed by going over the yellow lines, which generally just increase the number of movement points you have to spend to go over them if you're moving against the little arrow here. But if you bring the hook, you may place it on the board, and then it acts as a bridge for you to move across that, and you can put it back again. That's what the group inventory field is for, to carry that stuff forward. There's also some specific tokens here. These are pretty much achievements. So on the back of the storybook, and I'm sorry for jumping around here, but no, it's on the back of the rule.
Story.
You have the rule. So this comes with individual achievements that give you specific boni, and once you perform certain actions, they only count for a single mission each time. So, for example, this says the first mouse that has in a single attack or a defense throw at least 3 or more pieces of cheese rolled, he gets this cheese marker. And the cheese marker gives you the allows you to move the end marker one page forward, so giving you more time to complete the thing. And if you from then on roll a cheese while defending, every other mouse in the room also gets a piece of cheese. So these are pretty cool achievements, and also give you a way, if you're playing with kids, to have them bounce back or feel like they did something really important to proceed the story, if you want to, by keeping track of that. Let me think. Did I forget anything else? Well, there's one biggie I didn't talk about at all. That's like, how do enemies behave? But that's pretty straightforward from the rules. In most cases, it's there's a specific order you have to set up enemies. For example, melee enemies get close to the mice, while ranged enemies tend to stay away from them. And the overall notion is, once it's an enemy's turn, he will attack the mouse closest to him, unless that mouse has already been attacked and some other mouse is in range. So the AI, so to speak, of the game tries to distribute damage dealt to all mice most equally. So there's usually not a ganking up on a single mouse with a specific enemy type. But then again, there's different enemies with different behaviors. Some enemies, like there's the cat Brody, who is obviously too big to have a miniature, so she just comes with this paw marker. Brody comes with actually 2 initiative cards, so she gets 2 turns per round, and both initiative cards have different attacks and special abilities on them. Also, once you defeat every miniature on the board of a specific initiative card, obviously that card is removed from the board, and you don't have to worry about enemies again at that point. As you can see here, the cards have also the little health icons, and if there's no health icon, it's just 1 hit point, and then the mini is gone. Other than that, there's no experience gain for defeating stuff. What you'll gain experience from is, well, as I said, rolling cheese, and maybe searching and finding interesting stuff that will help you out later on.
Do you want to go into the expansion a tiny bit, mentioning it before we go into the next section?
Yeah, so...
because otherwise I think you covered it all.
Yeah, I think so too. So the base game, as I said, is this storybook. There's at least one bigger boxed expansion out here. There's, I think, the second English expansion is already out as well, which we'll get here. I think it says Q2 this year, so we'll have that soon as well, and may make a video about it. We'll figure out. The first big expansion is called Heart of Glom, or Herz des Glom in German, which is pretty much the same. More stories, more chapters, more stuff to do. It comes, obviously, since it's a smaller box, just with 2 new minis. These haven't been painted yet because I've been lazy, and there's some other game involving lasers.
I was about to say, it wasn't lazy, it was busy.
It was involving lasers and Wookiees that need to get painted, so I haven't painted these. Heart of Glom introduces a new player character you can choose with new abilities. It reuses the same enemies, but puts them into a different context. So giving you the hint undead, because it's kind of a necromancer type of story. But it'll reuse the tiles, it'll reuse the enemy miniatures, and try to introduce more gameplay mechanics as well. As I said, the base rule set is augmented by the campaign chapters you're playing, even more so in the expansion. So you'll come across new rules. There's a couple of rules, but it is literally just the first 2-3 pages that explain some new rules to this, and the rest is then coming up in the chapters as you're playing through. And I think that's pretty much it. There's also a concept in the base game of having pets, which gives you like some kind of minions to summon and move around the board. Naganos, for example, has a little, what they call ladybugs?
Ladybug.
Has a little ladybug called Meeps that he can use. Heart of Gorm builds up upon that and introduces more animals. And has the Nere being more of a summoner character who's able to summon up minions and fight with them, doing some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I hate this game. 0 out of 10 stars.
No.
It's horrible.
No. First, you don't go into rating before I say so.
Okay.
Because I'm...
Say so.
No.
Say it.
Well...
Say it.
I need a new coffee and then we can go into likes and dislikes.
I hate this game.
Before we go into rating. I didn't say the word with the 2 letters and it's very difficult to go around that. I'm not saying it. I'm pausing the video now and I need a new coffee.
See you
in a sec.
In a cheese bite. Got your coffee?
Yeah. Did you enjoy
I hate
the jeans?
this game.
Did you enjoy the jeans? The cheese. Anyways, just to let you know, we're segueing, of course, in a totally unprofessional way into the the next section.
For once, yes.
Likes and dislikes. Oh, we had better segues already. But the next 2 sections, we will include the expansion into our rating and also a bit into the experiences. So just for you to know.
I think we can rate the base game and the expansion individually.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what we liked, what we maybe did not like, or experiences that we didn't have with the base game, but with the expansion. Anyways, I'm starting with the likes and dislikes. So, first off, I love this game for... No, I'm not the game itself, but I love the... No, shit. You know that I separate things, like... the gameplay and experiences and what the game, looking at it and touching it. The components are superb. Not only the minis, but also if he's not in the next Gamer's Couch, there might have been an accident at this household. Just saying. No, what I really, really like throughout the game and the expansion as well is the quality and the style of all the components, all the cards, the manual, the board, the minis, everything. It's superbly done. It's the artwork itself is eye candy and gorgeous and really gets you into those fairy tale book kind of realms that it's so easy to hop into this game and get into the story, into the universe, into, some children's fairy tale book. Very well done. And the quality of the components is very, very good as well. So, since he already mentioned it at the beginning of the video, he painted the minis. So the minis, even not being painted, come with a nice look. They have very, very good depth of detail, so it's actually worth painting them, which says a lot. Huh?
They have a lot of contrast.
Yeah, says a lot already.
I mean, these are the dark ones, but I'll hold up them a little bit more while you...
Yeah, so I really, really like that, and that is one of the 2 big pluses of the game, not even having played yet. And it's just, you want to play this game when you see such a gorgeous game. The second thing is that the manual is well done and that it's separate from the storybook, where you have sections, again, per chapter, per page, that pretty much per side of the board that you're currently playing on that has some extras, some maybe just part of a story included. And if something happens, then read this in this section and you got a bit of a story there, or you just got some information about what's different or in addition to the basic rules of the book. And it's just very, very, very well done. And this is one of the big bonuses. The other big bonus is the story itself. It has a nice arc. I'm not spoiling anything that happens in the book, but it has a nice arc. It has a couple of the classic storytelling kind of mechanisms, like telling things in 3 beats and stuff like that, having, like I said, a nice arc, having different kinds of difficulties, obstacles, just by having humans being transformed into mice and then having their personalities come with them. It's just a nice way to tell the story, and it's very well done. So kudos to the writers, not only the artists in this game. The writers did a great job with that. So and another thing that I find very, very well done is that there is no difference in the quality of the minis or any kind of components and the way that the story is written when you go into the expansion. So there's no hard cut. It's pretty much the next chapter in the same book, which I like a lot. You don't have the feeling that you're playing an expansion. It's just the next chapter in the book, which is very, very well done as well. And I really like that the outcome is the way it is. When you change out writers, you might experience some different style. But even with the same writer, people evolve in their art style or in their way of writing. So you might have a different kind of feel when you read something from the same author. And it's not the case here. You see that the writer might have evolved in the way of telling stories, but the feel and touch of the story itself is pretty much the same and just spot on. Awesome. Sometimes I didn't really like the way that rules were maybe not explained clearly. We had to look up things for specific mechanics on the web, but not for all of them. And that goes for the base game and the expansion as well. So there was just some chapters, I remember 2 chapters in the base game where we had to look up a lot because in the German version, either we were not understanding it correctly, which might be a thing as well, but we had to look up things, and then it slows down and gets you out of the feel of the story. So that was but it was just two chapters, wasn't the whole game. So I'm just mentioning it. It's it was just one mechanic that was not explained as well as all the other mechanics, which made us question things, and then we had to look up things on the web while waiting at the table to go on with the game.
The game obviously also comes with an index and gives you an overview, but I'd almost say I think this game would have benefited from something like the reference guide that is a part of Fantasy Flight's Imperial Assault. It's not. I don't want to say that's the gold standard, but there's a couple of bit more intricate rulings here, specifically if you come to look up board features and stuff that would have benefited from a bit more thorough maybe examples. Maybe we have just trouble understanding it, but I think one of the things that always had us go back and look up is like, how do you move through water? And,
because we don't play we play.
It's not difficult, but
but you forget over the week.
Yeah.
You forget it, and then you got to look it up next weekend. So, but that might just be our busy brains. It might be that other people could remember that way better than we do. I'm not saying that, but it was another mechanic where we had to look up and scroll through pages and pages of FAQ on the Board Game Geeks to find out what was happening, and it was a crucial mechanic. If we would have said, okay, we just house rule it and don't look it up, it could have spoiled or screwed up the whole chapter for us. So we really wanted to look. And I mean, if you play such a gorgeous and lovely game, you want to play it right, you know? So there was just that one thing in 2 chapters where I was like, okay, we have a lot of downtime. Otherwise, I really like that you don't have a lot of downtime as a player, even if it's not your turn, because usually you play or you roll dice for one of the enemies and hope that you roll shitty so that the enemies die. Don't look at me like that. That comes in the next section. So, you always have to do something on the board, and since it's a co-op game, it's a lot of communication on the table. It's a lot of planning and having strategy talk on the table, which I really like when it comes to co-op games anyway, that you have that feature. And yeah, you are successful together, and you maybe are not successful together, and yeah, you share the fields, you know? So I really like that thing. And I'm not gonna tell you about any kinds of things that I liked specific to a chapter because I don't want to spoil the story. Which is my like and dislike, and now you can talk and then we rate.
I hate this game.
Why did you play it with me?
I really like the story of this game. I really like the characters of this game. I don't even mind so much the combat mechanics and what I. This is one of the few games that gets me really infuriated with the chances that are going on. These little suckers. Either we got the box where dice were imbued by the devil himself, who just gives you the middle finger with each roll, or it is the game feels a bit too random for the story aspirations it has. I think that would be my only criticism is if you have a story that engaging and that great, and that's the draw. The gameplay sometimes can be the problem there, or can be between you and having an enjoyable evening. Not say so. I wouldn't go so far to say that this game is difficult per se. The thing that is sometimes really frustrating is you may play a chapter and you may just breeze through because it's the simplest thing in the world, and it's like, yeah, that's cool, and let's do another one, and then you die or you lose on the second board tile because you just don't roll the right thing, or even worse, there's a couple of things when I said water movement, and this kind of goes into almost the play experience stuff. But imagine this: you have a feature on the board that says, "Well, you have to roll a star to get out of the water to climb up the thing." Now, one could say it's extremely unlucky that you roll not enough stars to get out of the water, but if it ends up in that particular instance that you have like 2 rolls to do that and a 50-50 chance, that's actually a pretty good chance that your character's dying there, specifically if there's no other way around really for you to go there. I mean, as I said, you can get the hook and the rope, but maybe not. Maybe you didn't get there. There's quite a lot of that in the game. There's the same with enemies. As I said, the chances to hit with a ranged character are hard already, and each enemy has like a 50% chance to hit you. Problem is, typically there's more enemies than there's you, and you sometimes just get steamrolled by them, and you'll be happy to just defeat one of them, unless someone rolls like 15 shields in a row. It's like, yeah, great, I'd like to progress somehow and not wait until the die decides that I can progress. And that's kind of, it sounds super negative, and I know I said I hate this game, but the thing is, I really like this game, but I really hate this game. It's really stressing. And
He can get so mad.
And to be honest with you, I'm really getting angry with myself while playing the game, because I feel how it pushes those buttons with me to get me mad. I think I stated that on our last play when we played together, where I said we play quite a lot of co-op games. I mean, we talked last week about Sentinels, and none of these games get me mad as Mice and Mystics does. And that might be because of the story stuff I want to go through. Imperial Assault also has that but it's way better. But because the story will still progress even if you're bad with the rolls. And the only thing in Imperial Assault that frustrates me would be where you're not able to do anything. It's like okay, I'm just now sitting here half an hour and waiting for the game to be over so we can progress, because all my options have been taken out because I don't have anything on the field to actually interact with you or with the other players, which might be a very specific thing and poor planning on my side for the one mission. But enough of Imperial. Here I get the same feeling, but being at the mercy of the right die roll, which and that might be a fair warning if you're playing this with your kids. If you are an impatient idiot like me, who actually...
Can I have that on the t-shirt?
Who actually wants to see how the story moves forward, or how at least wants to see that not the entire game seems to hinge on a die roll, and if there's a star on the die or not, then you might have to prepare yourself. Or if you're playing this with your children, they may learn new swear words in a very short time. Going forward.
Or they get a lot of money in their jar.
I'm almost inclined to say I don't think that a kid would have a problem with this, because they tend not to be bummed out that much by a random roll. I found that, and that might be personal history stuff, I found that the older I get, the more annoyed I am by these really, really random chance things that just stretch stuff out. And I think the other thing that kind of irritates me there in the slight thing is, once you get to that point, there's usually not much you can do to find recalls and move around that obstacle. It is literally, if you don't roll the right thing right here, right now, you just have to start over again. So the last 30 to 60 minutes are out of the window and you'll start again. Obviously, that is what happens in co-op games. But with the story,
frequency.
But with the story being such a major part in here, the initial draw with the story is gone, kind of, because I heard that again. So now you might say, well, then cheat your way through the story and just pretend that you. But that's not fun either. I'm almost inclined to say that the biggest draw for me here is the story. The gameplay is okay. I wouldn't say it's great. It is okay. And that might be what kind of causes this dissonance for me, where if the story wouldn't be here, I would play this game a couple of times and then probably not anymore. At least we have other games that cover that gameplay aspect in a better way, I would say.
But again, the purpose for playing this game is the story.
Yeah.
It's not, well, other games that have the same or a very similar gameplay or mechanics, they have other things that draw you into that whatever game. Here it is the story, and I'm also getting mad at the same thing, but like 2 hours later than he does. So I have to spend 2 hours looking at this pretty face, being totally angry and mad, and the way he just pushes the figurines around and throws the dice like all over the place. That's not fun. So I do have the same feeling, but I get it way later. I'm way more patient and getting less frustrated less quickly than you do. But with the expansion, it just happened way more, and I'm segueing kind of into the next chapter already. With the expansion, it happened way more. So the expansion for us was way more frustrating so far than the base game. And it prevents us, or it stops us bringing out the game every weekend. With the base game, we did bring out until we had
a couple
like
of chapters a single night.
Right, and we don't do that with the expansion just because we were unlucky with our experiences so far. So other games get more table time, though the story itself is so great, and I so want to know what happens.
Yeah, let's say playing Pandemic or Sentinels, if we
is
lose,
not easier.
If we lose there, it is pretty likely that we say, hey, let's have another try at this. Here, it's almost a hard stop. And I know I'm an idiot for it, but it's I have the same thing with some video games, but then obviously that is not as annoying because you're usually not playing with multiple people at the table and annoying other people. So I assume that is a character flaw I have to get out of my system at some point, or the sooner the better. But take this as a fair warning. If you know that there's the chance that you might get really pissed off by something like that.
Like, for example...
Know that going into...
We can't play this with my brother. My brother is not a gamer. He's just recently getting into board games because he plays them with his kids. This is a perfect kids game. Yeah. And if he is not evolving to our stage in the next 4 years until our niece is 8 years old, we will not play this game with him. Yeah. And it's very sad for me because... It's a lovely game, and he's so much on story and great artwork, so he would enjoy it. But with the mechanics and the heavy luck base thing of the game, he would get so even madder as you, and then won't enjoy the game with her.
I'm pretty sure. So, and that are kind of two different worlds, at least in my head. If we are playing this game together, I'm playing this game to experience the story for myself. And kind of progressing, advancing the game. Now, if I would be playing with my niece and my nephew, I would play this game entirely differently. Because then I'm not playing for me to know about the story or to win this game. I'm playing with the kids, kind of.
Yeah, we would play different. But if my brother would be involved, it would be more like the way we play.
You think he would still
be so mad? No, not competitive, but he wants his daughter to have a great experience. And if the stuff happens that happened with us on Friday...
He'd write angry letters to the...
It would not be fun. So, but he might just have to evolve as a gamer in the next 4 years until they can play it. Anyways, let's rate and go into the experiences, because we're frequently segueing already.
So my rating for this game is total cheese.
With a biscuit?
No.
No. What kind of cheese? I want to know.
Your turn.
My turn? It's an 8 out of 10.
Cheese.
No, it's an 8 because, I mean, it would be a 10 if that one thing with the chapter checking back with the frequently asked questions for so long. If that wouldn't have happened, it would have been a 10. And I would even take out a bit the getting mad at the luck factor kind of downgrading, because I don't feel that bad about that mechanic as you do. But it bugs me that it bugs you at one point. Because it's not fun for me to play that. And now we're heavily segueing into funny stories and experience. And now we
I'd say
shit all over the place.
I'd say if I had a wish or two for this game going forward, or for a kind of re-release or an update to that, having a good reference book would go a long way. And I don't know actually how to achieve that with a direct thing, but having him be a little bit more tactical and a little less, as a consequence of that, a little less random when it comes to rolling the dice. I totally understand that there's a need for tension in terms of do you achieve that, but I think in a lot of cases that tension comes down to a 50-50 chance, and that is, while that is fair, it kind of limits the game in some ways.
And I'm now telling you, just hop on to my Instagram and see what happened on Friday, so 2 days ago, at our house while we played it. We played the expansion. We are in chapter 3 now. And when back when in December, when we played the first chapter of the expansion, we had the same thing. So we didn't have a good experience there. That's why the expansion was shelved for so long. Usually we press forward to go through other chapters to know the story. We're curious, and we're not reading about the story. We don't. We want to play, we want to experience it. So on Friday, we played chapter 2. Played it once. Horrible experience. Then we played 2 other games for multiple rounds to just cool off a bit and then try chapter 2 again. And then we were, in that round, we were lucky enough with our dice rolls and we got through well enough. So we decided, come on, we got a bank holiday, we don't have to work tomorrow, everything's done. Let's go on with chapter 3. So we did that. First round, horrible again, because rolling dice, and he was so mad by that point, by end of chapter 3 first go, that the dice were not only rolling on our table, but they were thrown through the down there until
they fell off the table.
Yeah, falling off. I fall off the couch in a second.
They fell off the wall, to be.
Yeah, it's like, did I now finally get a shield? No, of course not. It was a bow again. So it was just as.
But that's like the 6th time in a row where at some point it's like.
God damn it.
I know enough about statistical and chances, and yes, it may happen, but it is just so super annoying at that point.
And then we said, okay, we're going to push through and play the chapter over again. So, though we were frustrated, we cooled off a bit for like 10 minutes, got a coffee, yelled a bit, and then we got to the table again and tried fresh. Second round at chapter 3, and there at one point you have enemies that get reactivated at the start of their turn if you roll a star on 1 die. And in chapter 2, both times, and also in the first round of chapter 3, we were having a lot of stars rolled on the table, so the enemies came back again and again. And literally, in the second round of chapter 3, every time any of our characters had to roll a die for the star being on the die, would they stand up again and be reactivated or not, every time we had a star. And that even got me so mad that we didn't go through a third round, though we had enough time, and just said, we call it a day, we're not gonna have it on the table for maybe a week, and then we might try again. Because we were just so frustrated. We couldn't go on with the story, and it was not even enjoyable with the story anymore. We were just trying to get through room 3 or 4 And both times it didn't happen in a way that we couldn't do anything about it, which was just, he was so mad.
Yeah,
You should have seen him.
And
it was a horrible.
The thing, and obviously that was kind of an amalgamation of unfortunate events happening. But I mean, imagine this: you get into that stupid room, you fight those enemies that stand up again, and they just don't go down, and
hour.
Then you have it down to one. Then the search happens. Then more of those come out, and so we spend 2 pages out of 5 when the game ends in a single room, just because we couldn't get the enemies down.
Yeah,
and it's not because we had some better abilities or had some better equipment we could have used. No, it's I mean, there's only so much you can do for doing the role thing, and now that happened in 3 different games, which is possible, maybe not probable, but I mean, at some point it's like, I don't really want to play this anymore because it's
I had the feeling that the expansion was way more unbalanced than the base game, and then we looked things up and researched on the net, and it's just as unbalanced as the base game. So there was not any downfall there, but it felt so much more unbalanced just because we had that bad experience.
I think
in 3 different chapters.
The issue there would be that it is kind of perfectly balanced because it feels like a 50-50 chance, but
maybe it's a cursed.
50, in that case, it felt like a 50-50 chance that you cannot influence, or you at best you get a 50-50 chance with the tactical decisions we made. And obviously you can go in with different characters and different skill sets and that. But again, that's kind of where then the story throws you some sand into those gears, because you kind of play those characters and you want to advance the story with those characters that you started out with or that are mentioned in the story. So there's no hard rule except for a couple of chapters that say, hey, this character must be here or this character is not allowed to be here.
And and the thing is, this is not one round is not 30 minutes. We spent more than 1 hour at one go, so you just use up a lot of time. On the other hand, and this counterbalances the whole experience, is we had chapters where we started after dinner playing. We said, okay, we'll play 1 chapter, and we don't have much time, but we want to know. Like in the base game, we played that. And it was such a great experience that we played 1 or 2 more chapters the same night, because we really enjoyed the story and we had maybe luck with our dice and it was balanced at least.
But it
was a great experience.
But it wasn't it did not feel like it's totally not earned.
It wasn't just, we weren't just swooshing through. No. We had our fights. We may have had 1 character captured or, I don't know, poisoned or whatever. But it always felt earned. It was such a success and such a great feeling that we played till early in the morning just to have 1 more chapter played that night. So that's the other experience that we had with the base game.
I was about to say, so if I didn't really like the story and the presentation part of this game, I wouldn't get as mad about it. As I said, it is I think the thing that triggers getting really mad for me at this is that feel of
helplessness.
Yeah, not being able to. Even that there was no way to win this, and that feels like someone's not respecting my time, because that is kind of wasted. Now you can argue, well, you should experience the game. The game itself should be fun going forward. But as I said, it's okay. If there's other games I wanna, and if I wanna play tactical combat games, I'm sorry, but I'm not playing Mice and Mystics. If I wanna play a co-op game that feels fresh and different each time, I'm also not playing Mice and Mystics because it's a campaign structure and it does not have the real capabilities. Once you play through the campaign, I doubt you'll play through it again. Maybe once, but that's even stretching it. There's some story beats where you may make a different decision, but it's kind of. I think the base game, and that's 11 chapters. There's half, maybe a bit more, who have alternate decisions actually being presented to you, and whenever you take those, that usually isn't really an alternate path. It's more like here's an extended version of that level that will give you a reward if you go there, either in terms of story or in terms of equipment. But it's not like you won't replay this game to see, well, everything is now totally different because I went into the kitchen instead of to the next room. No, that's not it.
Yeah.
And I think that the stuff.
But here's another thing we have to remember. This is a game that is has a target group of
Sure.
8 to 15-year-olds.
And I'm a whiny 8-year-old when it comes to that game.
Yeah, but another thing is why he's getting so mad is, which is a thing that he actually likes the game. He wants to know the goddamn story. He needs to have time to cool off after bad experiences. But at one point, even months later, he comes and says, "Well, let's try that again. Let's try to have the wall be broken. Maybe we have a good experience and we can advance and we can finish the story. We don't read ahead in the book. We only know the story once we play a chapter." So.
I mean, so now you might say, and now there's may be some truth to that. Then why don't you just read the story?
Because it's cheating.
Well, that's for once it's cheating.
It's cheating. Come on.
And then the interactive part of that being played out as a game adds to the story.
Yeah.
You can read about that. You could watch a play through or something on the net for sure. But that is the game enhances the storytelling in that part, which is a great thing.
That's actually the thing about the game itself.
I would, if this would be a book, I would read it as a book. But a book has more to it in terms of story than what this has. I mean, this is not a book.
It's a booklet.
It's a booklet with a lot of rules in between
and pretty pictures
as well. If you just take the story bits out and read that's a bit thin.
Plain. Yeah, it's a bit plain. And I mean, though, again, it's for kids. It's not meant for adults. But in comparison to other kids' stories that are for the same age, this is just thin. But the way... but by playing the game, it becomes a full story that has, well... lovely memories and fights and all of that. It just adds so much more, and that is the core of the game. That it is appealing, and therefore you gotta come back to it and only have the story with the gameplay be combined, and not just read ahead and just put it on the shelf and that's that. That's not the point of the game, and that's why we don't read ahead. Although we are sometimes so frustrated that we even suggest not playing that chapter again, but hopping to the next. But we don't. In the end, we only go forward if we're successful, because we're little mice fighting for our kingdom. And I think that's the perfect point to wrap up the video.
Yeah, I've been ranting enough about this. It's a true love-hate relationship I have with Mice and Mystics. In fact, if someone would come up and say, "Hey, I have a couple of kids' board games. Could I play?" This might be the first I'd recommend.
Yeah.
Despite what all I've said, if someone's saying they wanna play a game with some story beats, not too complicated rules, I wholeheartily, without saying, well, caveat here, caveat there. No, I just recommend this game. It's an amazing game, an amazing idea. I'd like to see more of in the future. But there's, as you can see, that love for that enhances my dislike for some of the
Yeah,
things
you
it
can't
calls.
hate something if you don't love something first.
Yeah,
It's as simple as that.
True.
So, thank you very much for watching. Maybe you want to let us know in the comments below if you played this game, what your experiences were, if you feel the same way as we do. Or maybe if you had totally different experiences, I would be very curious about that, or we would be, you by proxy, of course. And if you want to share this video with somebody you think you know that should see this video, whatever, and I'm ranting, share it, like it, and if you're new to the channel and attracted to board game videos and maybe art videos, subscribe. We got lots of those for you throughout the week. And I think that's it. Say the goodbye thing.
Good meeps.
Good meeps is great. Goodbye. Have a good one. See ya.
Bye bye.